Okay, we're live now.
Yes.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to this exciting live session from Line Pro Dev. I'm Rahima Wasti, Marketing Executive at Line Pro Dev. As you all know, and I'm thrilled to have with us today our founder and CDO, Mr. Philip Cutting. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that is transforming the tech world as we know it: progressive web apps, or PWAs for short. We'll explore why PWAs are the future of apps and how they're reshaping the way business operate. So let's get right into it. Philip, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, dear. I'm very excited for today.
All right. Philip, let's start by breaking it down for our audience in simple terms. What exactly are PWAs and what sets them apart from the traditional apps?
So this is exciting, right? Now, traditional apps have some challenges, right? So they have to be installed on the phone. They have to be compiled for the operating system. Maybe use cross-platform, which is great in some cases. Maybe you have to use native apps, right? But now maybe you don't even have to use these either, right? Progressive web apps are essentially websites that function like apps. And think of them as the both of both worlds, the best of both worlds, right? They're accessible through the
Exactly.
browser, but you can also install them on your device and get them on your home screen. So they give a app-like experience while they you can use all the knowledge you have for your traditional your web-based apps. Right now, there's some extra lessons, things you have to learn, service workers and whatnot, how to make them work. But when you get around that little kick, it really opens up a whole nother world of accessibility and intent for a company. And the benefit is, while you can use them just on a browser, right? You can also do offline cache. You can store data. You can have this one universal language, HTML5
Exactly.
basically, and to use it everywhere, and to limit the kind of technical talent that you have to create these apps and get your services out in front of the world. It does get some challenges currently, right? In my mind, the technology is still young, so it's not good for everybody just yet. But I really feel like it's an upcoming technology that we should all be considering in our personal development. Businesses should be looking at this, right? And you should be considering if it makes sense for you. And I just want to throw out to the audience, if you guys have used PWAs in the past or currently building one, type a Y
Mhm.
in the chat and let me know.
And that's great. That's really interesting. I love how PWA simplifies access without sacrificing the performance. From a business perspective, why do you think PWAs are the future of apps? How do they benefit companies and consumers like that?
Oh, sure. So you just mentioned one of the things. Performance is something that PWAs really excel at because they're using kind of
Mhm.
a minimal set of functionality, and it's pretty well refined right now. So PWAs offer a streamlined, cost-effective solution for businesses, and there's no need to
Mhm.
develop separate apps for different platforms, which saves time and resources in at every level, right? So here's resources you have to consider: the technical talent, the different languages for different platforms. If you're making a native app on Android, you have to have Kotlin. It could be Java, but say Kotlin. If
Mhm.
you're making an
Right.
iOS app, it's probably going to be Swift and UI Kit, right? Or Swift UI, right? UI Kit's kind of old now. So you can get rid of all that technical talent sometimes by using PWAs if the case makes sense. And they give this streamlined, easy experience with very fast load
Right.
times compared to regular websites, great engagement, and most importantly, they're very accessible. HTML is a well-tested technology, right? And
Mhm.
through this, we are able to create some really amazing experiences, very accessible experiences, and very targeted performance. right? And this is
Yeah.
just in when the case makes sense, it's hard
Mm-hmm.
to top this. Now, it doesn't always make sense, right? So be careful about it. But a lot of times I like to recommend to my clients, or at least I like to ask, right? Can we start off with a web app, progressive web app, or do we need to jump right into a mobile app, right? And it can be like a gateway drug. It can be a great way to get users onto your platform way easier. And we're going to talk about some of the benefits later in the call, I suspect. But it's just a very amazing place to start, and helps your marketing, helps your
Mm-hmm.
business grow fastly. And whether you're using high-end devices or something more
Yeah.
basic, PWAs help level the playing field and to give you a quick launch into the market.
And that's absolutely right. I believe that that's the key, especially when we talk about digital inclusion. PWs are opening doors for business to reach wider, more diverse audiences. And that is really true. Let's shift our gears a bit. As someone looking to break into this fast evolving digital landscape, what skills do you think are essential for developers and marketers alike?
Okay, so developers, we have to start at the technical skills, and they're evolving fast, right? JavaScript, HTML5, CSS, box grid, all these concepts that we use to create regular apps. We also have to understand the mobile app experience, right? So there's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of extra depth you have to take, but those are still the key technologies you need just for even a regular high performance app website, right? Yeah, so we also have to learn about service workers, caching strategies. We have to make sure that we understand APIs and that we're doing things securely, right? We have to understand how background services work inside the mobile experience on devices, so that we're able to provide nice, secure experiences, but also they're fast. That cache data. We have to understand. I'm sorry, I'm speaking fast. We have to understand that there's a lot of information on this one. You have to understand, should we pull from the network first, or should we try to cache first, right? It depends on your business values and what you're delivering. And you really have to
Exactly.
understand how your customers are expecting to receive value, and where you can cache things, for example, and when you need to pull from networks, and how to
Right.
work in the background so that when you don't have regular access to the network, right? And you don't always do. Now, for most of us in America, we have consistent access. But even in America, there's places that don't have really amazing internet connectivity. Some of my clients are out in the mountains, right? And they have inconsistent access. If you're an outdoor enthusiast, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're somebody from the city, you can imagine this, right? But there's places in the world where data is expensive, and you have to consider those clients if those clients are part of your avatar. Not always, right? But the having this toolbox, having this set of tools in your toolbox is really going to help you consider your clients' needs and provide better experiences to them. So hopefully this is making sense to a lot of people. If anybody in
It
the
does.
audience has ever dealt with somebody avatar that doesn't have strong internet access, right? Put in there like type in signal, right? This would be fun. I'm curious if we have any guys that dealt with low signal, low connectivity challenges in the past 4 or 5 years. It's getting more rare, but it's still a thing out in the world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more to that. In marketing, especially in digital spaces, the ability to analyze data and to respond to real-time user behavior is a game changer. And networking has also transformed significantly with the digital tools. How do you think professionals should approach networking in this increasingly digital world?
Okay, so it's we're not in time in history anymore when we can just attend in-person events, go shake some hands,
Yeah.
right? We really need to create some community to share knowledge nowadays, right? It used
Agreed.
to, like, when I grew up, like a programmer was like either a secret agent or this amazing engineer that you just couldn't understand, right? But now things are
Mhm.
changing so fast, right? So you need to go out there and build a presence, build a community, and interact with people and share your knowledge, right? Don't hoard it, but share it with others and listen to the others that are sharing theirs, because we developers are a blessing, right? Most of us, while may not be very like social out in the world, we still love to help each other. So we still love to answer questions. We still love to say, hey, this is a challenge I've had. Here's how I solved it. And to share that knowledge,
Absolutely.
right? So it's
Yeah.
so much easier nowadays, especially some of us
Mhm.
older ones that have been around a little bit, that we know things are changing fast and that you have to share this with others because they may miss it, right? And those that go through it, once you've hit your head on something, you couldn't find a solution, go out there and share that, because people are looking for it. And sometimes they're shy to ask, right? For those who are shy, I just like to say, don't worry about that. Don't be shy. Search for the problem. If you can't find something within an hour, there should be people in your community that you can reach out to and help you develop those. Now, for entrepreneurs, you guys may feel lonely, right? Because you have these technical problems and you're trying to solve it, or you're trying to find the right way to solve it. And it can be hard, right? So the same thing goes for you guys, especially for you guys, because entrepreneurs feel like they have to keep their secrets. They have to be that leader, right? Don't worry about that.
Exactly.
Maintain your composure, maintain your values, and look great, right? But ask those good questions, and if you ask good, clear questions, even to the technical community, they'll be happy to answer. So this modern world of networking, building communities is more important than it's ever been. And I just want people to go out there to use LinkedIn, to use YouTube in meaningful ways. And these are just amazing platforms where we can connect with our
Absolutely. Yeah.
peers. We can help move the industry forward. The technology for PWAs right now, it's really growing rapidly. So if you
It
have a
does.
problem, right? Don't keep it a secret. Don't feel like you're not brilliant. Post it out there. You're either going to do two things. You're going to get an answer, or you might help move the industry in a way that's healthier for it. So be brave and get that message out there. And just again, I know I harp on networking a lot, but I want everybody to get out there to share their knowledge, share their problems, and let people feel good by helping you out, and also feel good by helping people out. And I think we're going to be amazed when we work together, use our God-given talents to create a really amazing world for everybody. And with everything moving so fast now, I can't see why we wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I totally agree to that. I completely do. Networking digitally allows so much more creativity for us, and it gives you a platform to really showcase your voice, your personal brand, and build those meaningful connections as well. So, back to PWAs, what challenges do you foresee companies facing as they transition to PWA-based solutions, and how can they overcome these challenges?
Oh, these are a very good question. So adoption is probably going to be the biggest challenge, right? Many companies are still
Mm-hmm.
reliant on traditional apps, and so that may make sense today, right? But in a week or a month or in 6 months, this may be turned around on your head, and you may lose your competitive advantage, right? So keep your eyes open. Even if it doesn't fit right now, keep watching this topic. It's really going to become Steve Jobs. This was his original thought for how to
Mm-hmm.
build the perfect mobile device. He thought everything was going to be based off the web. This is going towards that vision, and it's going to get. It's got to get there, right? I know Apple may not want it, Google may not want it, but they both will have to go in that direction eventually, because the
Think
world
does, yeah.
wants it, right? So companies are going to have to get out of that hesitation and keep forward minded
Mhm.
on this. So, and
Yeah.
it's easy to do while it's hard in some ways, but it's not that hard because it's based off existing technology. And you can take your senior or intermediate web developers and send them to a course for a week, right? And they'll be able to learn this, right? So it's not that big of a shift, right? And understand that the long-term benefits of implementing PWAs will may really enhance your business, right? Now,
Mhm.
there's some companies that probably will never be able to rely on PWAs. If you're on the cutting edge of technology, if your whole business is about being flashy and using the stuff that nobody else can do, yeah, okay, that's not going to be for you. But if you're using cameras and audio and presenting videos and instant messaging and notifications and presenting news, right? A lot of the stuff that we do on a lot of the current apps, it's really starting to fall right into place with what PWAs can do better, not better, right? But can do really effectively and be very cross-platform contingent, right?
Mhm. Right.
So the advantage of this and first mover advantage is really going to be huge. So I'm excited about it and to share this message. And I want to also make sure that we're looking at the user experience and making sure that it's easy for us to give a consistent user experience across platforms. And
Yeah.
more so, we have a lot of
Mhm.
freedom with PWAs, right? We on our web on
Agreed.
the browser, we don't have to deal with Apple Pay and Google Pay. We don't have to have Apple approve us or Google approve us, right? We can get our message out there and good, bad, right, wrong, right? We can get out there. And we don't need to follow under the what the Apple gods and Google gods allow us to do. So
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
ability for us to market the way that we think our clients need, to give a direct message and to do it our way is really significant, and the ability to move fast is huge. Google lately has been really hard to deal with, right? And I don't disagree with them. They have
Mhm.
millions of apps on their Google Play Store. They should be
Exactly.
more protective, right? But if you don't want to deal with that and you want to be able to go in and present value directly to your clients without having to do it the way that Google thinks you should, PWAs are very enticing.
Yeah, and that is something that marketing plays a big role in as well. Communicating the benefits to consumers and showing them that PWAs offer just as rich and as an experience as traditional apps. That is
Yeah, it also
something
does.
that PW, yeah, it is something that it teaches us. And let's take what somebody looking to future-proof their in tech or market.
Okay, the best advice I can give is my normal advice on this. Be a lifelong learner. Test things out in sandboxes. Try little projects of just learning technology, seeing how it works, and
Mhm.
experimenting with it. Right? When you have a little sandbox, you don't worry about that you make a sandcastle in the ocean, flushes it away or whatever. Just play with it, right? That's what the sandboxing concept is all about. The
Love
next
that
thing
example.
is right. It's a lot of fun. Next thing is keep involved with community, attend industry events, stay part of answering questions and teaching and experimenting with these technologies as they're coming along. It's come in the past 6 months, it has come along incredibly. I'm very impressed with it lately. The both cross-platform apps in the past 2 years have really stepped up. This year might be the year of the PWA, and to get ahead of that, next year might I suspect 2025, it's going to become like using PWAs are going to be almost as synonymous as React Native, right? So I'm very excited
Mhm.
for this technology and invest time in developing leadership skills, communication skills. Start being strategic about your brand, about your how you're going to learn things. Be open to what the community is asking uh, and craving for, right? So it's one thing to teach other developers. It's another thing to talk to business entrepreneurs and business leaders out there to see what needs to be done, where's the weaknesses, and look at the feedback that our clients are giving. Don't be thick skinned about it, or thin or thick skinned about it. Just look at it, listen, and say, hey, every complaint that we see out there is a chance to do better. And maybe it doesn't make sense, right? So one of the biggest problems with PWAs now is that they work on so many devices, right? The
Yeah.
big problem with Android development is there's a million different kinds of Android devices, right? We're going to have this problem with PWAs. And the last year, one of the biggest complaints that people got was that I made this app and people use these insane devices to try to use my app, and it made no sense. You have to plan for that, right? But you would never know that until
You're
you
right.
started looking at the community, started getting feedback from clients and other developers and looking at their problems, right? So there's little nuggets in there just continuous learning, continuous integration with the community, and trying to be part of something great. And so I think if you look at the mission and your value, right? Don't
Yeah.
I wouldn't want anybody to say my value is that I'm an amazing marketer like you are, right? Or I'm an amazing
Hmm.
C sharp developer, right? I'd like to see people talk like you do, like, hey, I love solving the marketing problem. Or programmers that like, I love to solve business problems. Give me a problem and I want to solve it, right? And I don't care how I solve it, right? I have my tool set, but I'll enlarge my tool sets if it needs to make this to solve a problem. And that excites me when I hear that kind of philosophy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love the fact that you're talking about this by giving so much examples that are relevant to this, especially in marketing, where the landscape is constantly shifting. Being adaptable and proactive about learning will really
Marketing
keep
is
you
hard
ahead as
nowadays,
well.
isn't it?
It is,
You
it is.
guys have really
Personally,
seen a lot of changes in the past 3 years, and it has not slowed down. So my all to all you marketers out there, put marketing in the chat, right? I am seriously cheering for you guys. We love you. Our businesses rely on you, right? And just like the guys that build the foundations, you guys are really amazing. So my shout outs to you guys, do all of us entrepreneurs love you guys. You do the hard work. Sorry
great,
to
Phil.
interrupt you.
Uh, so it's totally good. Looking at the global stage, how do you think PWAs can impact developing countries or areas with lower connectivity?
Just PWAs are going to be a game changer in regions where limited connectivity or resources are common, right? So since they
Mhm.
require less data, they can work offline. They can make a digital content more accessible to people who might not have consistent high speed or at all high speed internet, right? Or just
Mhm.
even top tier devices. And this can have huge implications for education, commerce, healthcare, right? Or even just
Yeah.
sharing news and communications. There, if you make your app to, and this is going to be on the app side of PWAs, right?
All
If you
right.
make it so that it has offline sync, if it has runners in the background on different threads meaning background services, right? If it's working in the back end, looking for that connection when you happen to have a good connection, right? Maybe at night, or you just happen to walk into a place that has connection or something like that, then you're making it so that people can access your data more consistently and more reliably. Uh, Rather than versus even like most apps struggle with this, right? Um, Making apps work offline is a science, and sometimes it's harder than actually building the app in the first place, right? So
Exactly. Exactly.
entrepreneurs recognize this fact. It doesn't seem natural, right? But
Hmm.
making your app work offline can sometimes take as much time or more time because of the complexities involved. But PWAs are giving us the tools for this, making that easier than it's really ever been before. And because they recognize this is a big problem, right? It's part of the fundamental value set behind a PWA, and part of the big drive of the science going into it. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. That is such an important point as well. This is so exciting, and we are to think about how technology like PWAs can truly democratize, yeah, access to information and services as well. As we wrap up, we are having a few questions from our audience, and we would like to ask them from you.
Yeah, fire away, dear.
So, first question is, so the first one is, what role does Google play in promoting and supporting PWAs?
Oh, So both Google and Apple are a little hard on PWAs, but they should be, right? And here's what's happened historically. People have tried to wrap websites that don't make sense in an app formats into app wrappers. So your PWA should be designed in a way that it recognizes it's on mobile experience and it should adhere to best practices for mobile devices. If you're doing this, you'll not have a problem, right? But sometimes the biggest thing that I've seen is just this: people try to take, you know, some news website or some kind of regular website and try to just shrink it down into a mobile PWA. The app stores hate that, right? They'll decline it, especially now. 2 years ago, you could get away with it. A year ago, they really started cracking down on it, and now it's getting just even harder, right? Especially with AI picking up on these problems and pointing it out. So if you're trying to do this, start off by looking at the experience as a mobile app, right? If that's what you're going for. Now you can run PWAs off of a browser and still plan for it that way, and you can still have your primary website and all that. That's cool. Now, if you run it on your browser, you're going to lose a lot of that caching and that resource management and in the service manager. So try to encourage your users to install the app, right, and get all those benefits, but design it so that it really behaves like an app. You'll have less problems. You may still run into some problems with Google and Apple Play Store even, but I've noticed that they are very legitimate in this, that if it behaves like a mobile app, it'll go through. Now, you still may have to make sure you're following all the other policies like you would in any other app, but just go with it with the mindset of creating a mobile app experience.
Great answer that, Phil. The next one is, what future advancements do you anticipate for?
Okay, your connection was not very good. I think I might have lost you. I heard the question is what future optimizations we're looking for and innovation in the PWA space.
I'll repeat the question for you. What future advancements do you anticipate PWAs, and how should businesses for them?
Okay, so I see right now PWAs are very good with caching and with base camera-based media experiences, right? Now, in the future, I see them getting even better into OCR, into augmented reality, and into having additional device-specific resources, and where they kind of struggle now. Also, where I see in the future is that you're going to be able to more easily manage what kind of device you're on via it's a high-end app, and you can degrade down to you can upgrade the experience or downgrade the experience that your users are experiencing, right? Android developers are more familiar with this concept than Apple developers, right? Because we are more used to having older devices that maybe the operating system wasn't so updated. You're going to have the same concept that's going to be easier to integrate into PWAs going into the future. One of the biggest problems that I've seen in 2023 for PWAs was that people with really substandard devices were trying to use it as an expectation of high performance, but the devices just couldn't pull it off. Right, I'm talking like smartwatches for kids, and they expect it to behave like a Pixel 2020, Pixel 2030 device, right?
Okay, all right.
This is going to improve over time, and the ability to set those expectations is going to improve. I expect to see better integration with exterior services, and for like Stripe to have better service integration and this is just an example. Stripe integrates fine with PWAs, by the way, but I expect more providers to build these toolkits and these software development kits to make it easier to work with them. One of the again, one of the problems from last year, 2023, was that people were didn't like that there were not a large set of libraries. You're going to start getting a lot more libraries coming in the future for developers to integrate into more complex situations and better software solutions. It's going to evolve, right? Assuming the technology continues in the vector it does. Now, if the concept dies off, or it kind of like AI, right? AI has been researched since the 70s, maybe sooner.
Yep.
And for a little bit, it lost funding. And recently, it's getting huge funding, right? So we may see the same thing with PWAs. But my feeling is that with AI technologies coming up, it's going to only accelerate because everything's accelerating right now. So I expect to see a lot of innovation and a lot of libraries and a lot more people using it to create specific experiences for their users.
Great answer to that. What are the primary limitations or challenges associated with PWAs?
The quality?
What are the primary limitations or challenges associated with PWAs?
Okay, so PWAs are still going to lag behind native apps, access to native app features. This is just kind of like the concept of it. So if you're relying on the top of the technology, then stick with your native experience. Also, native experiences are designed to work specifically on that hardware, while HTML5 is more of a general technology. It's pretty performant and probably a lot more performant than you expect, right? I expect for the next couple of years that the performance of native apps and progressive web apps is not going to be on par. Though, if you look at things that can be cached, right? If you're looking at straight data, then progressive web apps are amazing because you have a really, really solid, a lot of reallys. You have very solid caching technologies and network access technologies that allow you to pull data very conveniently to make a very nice user experience. And if your experience fits into that right now, then take advantage of that.
Great. And how does the security of PWAs compare to the traditional apps?
Oh, that's a good question. So there is a little bit of experimentation and nuance in the progressive web app libraries for technology. The service handlers work on a separate thread than the app itself, and there's a bridge between the two. So there is a little tiny blockage in there, right? Now there's hooks and interactions to minimize the concern in there. And you have to currently be mindful that you're validating the source, you're making sure that there's not a man in the middle kind of attack, and that you are verifying that the data is not been modified by like a man in the middle kind of attack. It's not too hard to do, right? You can do it, but you just have to be mindful of it. And a little bit more mindful than you would in a mobile app experience where all the threads are kind of put into a sandbox generally, right? Especially on iOS. Android has really good ways to manage these now. It's a mature technology. So I don't know currently if I would make a banking app on a progressive web app or a stock exchange app on that yet. But I think the technology is there that you can do it well. And you want to make sure that you're using technologies like AWS Lighthouse to make sure that you're evaluating performance and verifying connections and where traffic is coming from and how people are accessing your systems, right? All that stuff applies. You just have to be currently a little bit more mindful of it on PWAs. I'm sorry if that disappoints anybody. I think it's going to get better soon.
It's going to get better soon. We all hope. So yeah. What industries are seeing the most significant adoption of PWAs and why?
In my opinion, I think it's news and distribution sites, opinion sites, I think sales processes, any kind of shop is going to benefit from it at this point. Um, Anything that uses just essentially like standard technologies, even video streaming. Now, video streaming isn't really seeing it yet, but I'm wondering why. Right now, maybe a little bit more research into this will kind of point that out to me. But I'm starting to feel like it's time that we can start bringing this into the like Netflix kind of industry, right? But it's already
Yeah.
being used all over the place by news agencies, by Twitter lights, right? Um, Gosh, I was looking at some things. Flipkart and Trivago are using it with huge benefits, right? So there, it's really starting to grow. Just like the beginning of Ruby on Rails, almost when we were trying to go from jQuery to a better experience, and Ruby on Rails just popped up. It's almost like that, and I think it's going to have um, like Ruby on Rails had a little bit of a short life. It's still useful, right? But it kind of had like a little bit of explosion. I think progressive web apps is going to have a long, long life in it. So I think the adoption of it is only going to accelerate. The only industries I don't see it ever being a good fit is, and I shouldn't say this, but I don't see it being a good fit for a while, where there's augmented reality, where there's uh,
Mhm.
close integration with devices, like trying to measure distance or looking at video rendering, stuff like that. Now, in a lot of these cases, that stuff is going back to the server anyway, so there might be ways around it. So be creative, right? But just be cautious of how low end users might get a bad experience from your app.
All right. And so there is another question about if PWAs are PWAs more cost effective for business, and if yes, then why?
Oh, they're way more cost effective. You have one language to work with, right? You have HTML5, jQuery, JavaScript, right? You can put your entire server in Java, right? The technology is very simple. You can have, it's the ultimate cross platform. You can have one language for your web presence and for your mobile apps. And it simplifies and enhances the ability for you to have a seamless experience across platforms. And this is huge. Now,
Great.
there's weaknesses to this, right? As there's pros and cons for everything. But if your audience is going to be accepting of this unified experience across browser, across any of their devices, wherever they can see the screen big enough to work on that. And keep in mind, HTML has come a long ways. HTML is responsive to your screen size, right? So it's not like it was 10 or 20 years ago, or even in our imagination. It's really very adaptive and quick. And on top of that, you're able to get things out very quickly and to test them out. My best argument for using PWA for a startup is that it
Mhm.
allows you to experiment quick, to do split testing, to do everything that every entrepreneur is dreaming of and every marketer is dreaming of. It makes it so easy for you to work with your marketing team once you set up the tool sets in the continuous integration chain, CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment chains, to make it so you can change things quickly, test it out in micro in to a small audience, right? Not push things out to the entire audience, but take 5, 10, 20, or 10 or 20 or 30% of your audience and start testing these out. There's it's hard to make an argument against it if it applies. Now the problem is,
Okay.
right, you got to make sure the shoe fits. But if the shoe does fit, it's a great way to start.
It is. And certainly it tells us that it is going to be a lot more cost effective than the usual ones. So as we wrap up, Philip, what are your final thoughts that you'd like to leave with us and for our audience today?
Yeah, I'd just like to challenge everybody to start thinking about how PWAs can benefit your business or your career. And even if you're not a developer, understand how these technologies can help you get into the market faster, how to test things faster, right? Or even if they are a good possible fit, should have you curious to look into it. And I don't tell anybody to jump like fully on board on anything without looking into it, but check it out, because if the shoe fits, you're going to have an edge coming into this marketplace. And I just, think strategic, right? Look how fast things are
Yeah.
changing with AI. Your approach into growth, to marketing, has to be adaptive now, and has to be able to flux with the needs of the clients and with the environments. Right now, PWAs are starting to step up on that niche very, very well. And the ability to market well, the ability to tie into your marketing is hard to top, right? If you don't have access to guys like me that are like just on the top of the industry, who know the exact technologies to use for every problem, you can get away with a lot with a PWA that's going to help you step into the market to see if it's validate your business. Business validation is a big deal. I think we shouldn't overlook it.
And
So just encouraging entrepreneurs to consider it. And the future belongs to those who can innovate and who can embrace change. And this is rapid upcoming change.
thank you, Philip. That is certainly a very powerful message to our audience. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much, Philip, for having this very enlightening and insightful session with us. Keep learning, stay connected, and let's embrace the future of apps together.
Let's do it.
Take care of yourself. Goodbye.
Ciao.